Hello and welcome to Living Letters Podcast. I'm your host, Lori, and I'm also your guest. I'm your host guest. Yeah. How are you? How are you? I have been sick. I was sick for 2 weeks and then I was good for 5 days and then I was sick for 3 weeks and then I was good for a couple days and now I have an ear infection. I can't hear out of my left ear. Happy New Year. Yes. Welcome to season 2. Wow. I did not expect to take this long of a break from season 1 to season 2. I am so behind on things. So this episode is going to be different than all the other ones. On this episode, I am going to talk about growing up Catholic. This is just my experience. I was Catholic from the day I was born, apparently, until I was 11. So for 11 years, I was part of the Catholic Church. And I just wanted to share with you my experiences and what I learned. And this is just, let me just say this, okay? I am not talking bad about Catholics. I am not going to challenge anything. I'm not going to ask questions of anything, at least not in this video. I am just going to share my raw experience as a Catholic. I'm home alone, which is unusual. My husband works from home and I have a 5-year-old. She's in preschool only 6 hours a week. So this house is always loud. But since I'm not feeling well, they went to church tonight. And so I figured, I don't feel that hot, but let me just grab my mic. So I don't have nothing written out. This is not scripted in any way. I hope that I don't forget anything. So let's just dive into it. I just want to say that I know Catholics. I have lots of Catholic people in my family. A lot of them are Catholic by name. Some of them go to church for Easter and Christmas. That's their religion. And that's fine. I love them. I don't love their religion. And hopefully they love me, not for mine. I'm not religious. I have a relationship with Jesus. But this is my experience. Okay, so I was baptized as a baby. I'm not sure how old. I think I was young, young. I don't remember. The only reason why I know I was baptized was because I have beautiful pictures of my Nina and my Nino. This was in the 70s. I was born in 72, yo. So these pictures were so cute. Like my aunt was wearing like a yellow jumpsuit thing. Like, come on. It was just beautiful. Unfortunately, my mom was a little chunky but funky because, she just gave birth to me. But I think my aunt wore like a blue polyester suit. Yes. I mean, the pictures I love. Love the pictures. Also have video of it with no sound. So that is interesting. So that is the only reason why I know that I was baptized as a baby because I have a Nino and Nina. My Nino actually has the same birth date as me. We were born on the same day. I do remember I got one gift from him when I was 9 and it was a plant. And I think I might have got 1 or 2 happy birthdays since then. Thank you, Nino. And then my Nina, I loved her. She was my favorite aunt, but I always called her Nina and she was so beautiful. She had like these bluish hazel eyes. And she listened to Tina Marie. She wore leather pants. She wore suede shoes. I mean, she was beautiful and she's in heaven now. So anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this. But anyway, I was baptized as a baby and I only know that because of the pictures in the video. Next, I had to dress up to go to church. Now, I've always been a pleasantly plumped person. I did not know that I was fat until I was in first grade. Everybody I don't know, how do you explain it without showing you? When you're hot and you're young, so what they would do is they would scrunch up their shirt at the bottom and then put it over the top. I don't know. So your belly would stick out because you're just so hot, right? So you need to cool off by doing that with your shirt. And someone's like, you can't do that. You're fat. So I had no idea I was fat until first grade. So anyway, I hated to dress up because I always had a complex that I was fat. And so, you have to wear dresses. And not only that, I had flat feet. So they gave me prosthetic shoes. These are the 70s. Okay. So you didn't get cute shoes. They were brown. They were brown and they had this thick um bottom to them. And then the inside was like plastic. and they actually hurt my feet. And then, like, when you wore socks, because it was hard plastic, I would, like, slip and swish. It was just awful. So and brown. Hello, like, I was a colorful girl. I wore colors, rainbows, I loved it, but with brown shoes. So I did not like that I had to dress up. So church was not that far from us. At the time, we lived in La Puente, California, but we live in Bassett area. Those of you who grew up in Bassett know what that's about. But yes, Latino area. And it was a Latin Catholic church. Now, my parents both know Spanish. Their parents know Spanish. Actually, my father's mother didn't even know English. So, and my mom was raised by her nana, and she didn't know English either. And she lived with us, and she was my favorite person on earth. But she didn't speak English, and I didn't speak Spanish. But she understood it pretty much, but she couldn't talk it. But we just loved each other. She loved on me. She was my favorite human on earth. So boring, right? I don't know Spanish. And now this is Latin. This is not Spanish like we speak at home. So I did not really enjoy going because I would have to get dressed up. I'd have to wear those dumb shoes. And then I have to go hear some guy talking a language that I don't know what he's talking about. And then we have those benches, hard benches. And we sat towards the front all the time on the right side. And then the benches squeak. Okay. So try not to fall asleep as a child. Okay. So all I remember is that I don't know what he said, but I could just remember this tune. I don't know if you guys know it, but it's like, what the heck? Then I knew that's when it's time to try and stay awake. And so I got hit and slapped upside my head so many times because I was falling asleep. So my mom would hit me on the back of the head to wake up. And not only that, I have a little brother. He's 6 years younger than me. So it was my job to try and keep him quiet and be still and keep him entertained at the same time as me trying to stay awake and try not to move so much because, it hurt my butt to be on those hard wooden benches. And every time you move, it squeaks. And then if you squeak too much, your mom will hit you. So, that was my experience going to church. And so I remember every time you walked in, I believe, and every time you walked out, you had to put your hand in the holy water and you do the sign of the cross. Let's see if I can remember. I don't know Spanish. My parents didn't teach me. No, the Espiritu, the Son, like that's what I did because everybody else did it. Now I remember the priest would walk in. I don't know when. I don't know what order this was in. I don't know if this was the beginning, in the middle, the end. I have no idea. But I remember the priest walking in. There was always just boys with him and the incense. I could not stand the smell. It was the most horrible, worst smell in the world. And we always sat like towards the aisle where, right there. So I would try and hide behind my mom. I would try and like hide my face. I would pray that he wouldn't put that incense little thing that he would swing around my way. I have no idea what the incense were for still to this day. And I know when my husband hears this, he's going to be like, "You're so embarrassing," because he went to Catholic school. Excuse me. So my husband has a whole different experience, which I will interview him. He's going to be on my podcast and talk about growing up in Catholic school, right? So I have no idea what the incense meant. And then not only that is they would have, I guess, holy water in this wand, and they would just like fling it, and holy water would get on you. And I would be like, dude, don't splash me. I don't want my dress to be wet. Don't poke me in my eye, get in your face and your hair. I have no idea what that was. I don't know. Me and my brother would try and, play a game about it. Maybe he'll wet you instead of me. So again, I have no idea what that was, but to me, I was annoyed. Then I used to call it midnight mask. I had no idea it was called mass. It was midnight mask to me. I couldn't stand the midnight mask. Why are you waking me up when I've been asleep for a few hours to get dressed up and then to go already half asleep trying to stay awake for midnight mask? Now, I'm thinking that was for like Christmas. I have no idea. I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't. So this is how much I learned in being a Catholic. So I did not like the midnight mass thing at all, because then I couldn't go back to sleep when you had to go home, and then you had to wake up again. Like It was just so annoying. Let's see what else. Communion. I would just go because everybody else went. I mean, yeah, pretty much. And then I would go because I really love the wafers. Oh my gosh, the wafers taste so good to me. So my mom did tell me, don't ever let the priest put the wafer, the bread of Christ, in your mouth. Don't open your mouth and put out your tongue ever. You let him do it in your hand. I'm like, what? Like, I've never understood that. But as I got a little bit older, she explained to me that she was hit on by a few priests. Even when she was going to get married with my father, they had to go, you have to go get counseling or whatever you do. And the father tried to hit on my mom. My dad thought it was funny. And so my mom told me that a lot of the priests are perverts. And so it's nasty and that you should never do that. So it wasn't weird to me because my mom was, she used to be a hippie and she used to be a biker. So she was very open with me on things. So I was like, all right. But whenever she wasn't there or like we had catechism, I remember I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna let him put it in my mouth and see what the big deal is. And I was like, there's no big deal, but I felt so bad. So I only did it like once, maybe twice, and I'm like, never again, put it in my hand. And then now that I see sometimes like on TV, they have like mass on TV and like, oh, we would drink from the same cup, the wine. You take a sip and then they turn it and then a sip and then they turn it and then I don't remember them taking a cloth and like kind of cleaning it like I see now on TV. They didn't do. Oh gosh, that is so disgusting and full of germs. Like who does that? Do they still do that? Yeah, but I remember one time when I went to catechism with the kid across the street from me, and we walked home. And like I said, I really liked the wafers. So one time, I put it in my hand and I put it in my pocket so I could eat it later. And so when we were walking home from catechism, I was like, oh, and I took it out of my pocket and I started eating it. He was freaked out. He's like, you can't do that. It's going to turn into blood. And I'm like, what? I could do it all the time. What are you talking about? He's like, you're not supposed to do that. You're eating Jesus. You're eating his body and you have to do it in front of the priest. You can't do it. You're going to kill him. There's going to be blood. I'm like, this guy is wacko. I had no idea what he was talking about. I still did it whenever I wanted a snack for later. They taste so good. I mean, they do. I did go to a small Christian church and they would still give out wafers. They weren't as big and they weren't as good, but they're way better than the cracker. Some Christians do crackers and some do bread. Just do the wafer. Oh, man. So let's see. I remember one time we were walking to service and I saw like a classroom. We walked by a classroom and there was these little girls like my age, some older, some younger, wearing wedding dresses. I'm like, Mom, what is that? I want to wear a wedding dress. She's like, you do? Well, you have to go to catechism. You have to go to class. And I'm like, sign so I went to catechism and I believe we would go on Saturdays. And like I said, I went to catechism with a guy across the street, but they had us like separate girls, one side of the class or in one class. I don't even remember. And a guy somewhere else. I remember never seeing him until after class. I'm old now. My memory's going. But I do not remember one thing from catechism. I remember always sitting in the back. I remember not having any friends. I remember them writing on the chalkboard, and I'm thinking maybe they talk Spanish. That's why I don't remember anything. So I don't remember anything. But I remember my mom telling me that my grandmas were going to make my dress. And so my mom's mom, she sewed all the time. So I remember kind of liking my dress and kind of not liking my dress. But I remember just feeling so special. Like I was so special for wearing a dress. I remember sitting on my couch in my living room, waiting for my parents to get ready. And for some reason, I made the mistake of calling my dad by his first name. Probably because my mom and dad were like, hurry up, hurry up. And I was like, hey, David. And he turned around. He said, what'd you say? And he walked up. I was so scared. He walked up in my face. He says, don't you ever call me David. My name is Dad. Woo! I never called him David again. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. That's my daddy right there. So that's a clear memory of that. And I also had this weird feeling like I had a halo or like I had a crown around my head. I don't know what that was. I don't know if that was just my mind, if my hair, I don't know. But I don't know if it's because I just felt so special. I didn't really know, still kind of don't know what First Communion, Holy Communion. I don't even know what that is. I just knew it was because I was in a wear wedding dress. That's why I did it. So I remember walking down with a whole bunch of people, getting my communion in my hand, the wafer, and that was it. And we took some pictures, and that's pretty much all I remember. So I thought rosaries were really pretty. I still kind of do. I think some of them are so pretty, but then growing up too, I watched a lot of scary movies, and then they have rosaries in them, and so I'm kind of scared of them. But then they look pretty, and then now like I'm a believer, so, like, people will look at me weird if I had a rosary. Yeah, but the thing I remember about the rosary is that, like I said, my great-grandmother lived with us, and I went in her room one day, and she scared the heck out of me. She was laying in her bed. She always made her bed as soon as she woke up, so she was fully clothed, and she had her shoes on, and she had her grandma bandana on, and she had her rosary, and she was talking in Spanish, and it scared me. She was like, "That's what it sounded like to me." So I'm like, "What in the world?" So I ran to my mom, like, "Oh, what's going on with grandma?" And she's like, "She hates thunder." And I was like, "Oh," and she goes, "She's very afraid." So I was so scared, but I opened her door and I went on the bed with her and I was trying to comfort her and she was clinging onto her rosaries and ba, 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 ba. And she was, going one by one by one by one by one by one. That was the only person or I mean, I think my mom had a rosary and my other grandma, but I never seen them like pray on the rosary. So come to find out that my great grandma lived here in Arizona along the Colorado River, and her sister, which I till this day can't find which sister, what was her sister's name? I have a sister, but name anyway, she had like 13 siblings, 13 siblings, was struck by lightning and died. So she was terrified of thunder and lightning. So that's why she clung to her rosary thing. So yeah. Oh, and another confession. That's what it is. Confession. I don't know. I think it was during catechism. 'Cause I just remember kids being there. I would lie during confession. I would make stuff up because like people would come out and be like, "Oh, I had 11 Hail Marys and what's the other and 7 Our Fathers, right?" So I'm like, "What?" So I would go in there and I'd be like, I stole today." Like I would make up lies so that, I was like, "Oh, come on." And it was like, "Oh, I only got 3 Hail Marys." What if I could see Hail Mary, full of grace? See, I don't even remember. So, yeah, I would lie in confession so I could fit in with the other kids. So basically, growing up Catholic, I learned absolutely nothing. Everything was in Latin. I just knew that you had to sit down, stand up, sit down, kneel down, stand down, stand. And I would have to like look at my mom because it was in Latin or see what everybody else was doing. And I'll be sitting there and then all of a sudden they'll be kneeling, like, "Oh, I'd better kneel." Whoop. And I remember them always saying, "And peace would be with you, peace be with you." And sometimes, and you shake each other's hand. Don't know what that's about either. High schooler. Was it in high school or after high school? I don't know. Maybe 12th grade or right out of high school. I remember riding in a car with a friend's friend, and we're in a station wagon, and we're bumping, probably like LL Cool J or something. Anyways, and then they were listening to all kinds of weird stuff. All that music has all that foul language or not so good subjects and, just be like boom, boom, boom. And then all of a sudden they shut off the radio and they all did the sign of the cross. And I'm like, what is going on? So every time you pass a church, you have to do the sign of the cross. I don't know if you have to shut off the radio, but I was like, this is so weird to me. And then you put back on the music that you shouldn't be listening to. So every church you pass by, I mean, I don't know if it was that group of people we were with or if that's how it goes. I have no idea. And then more recently, it's not that recent, maybe like 12 years ago, our landlord had passed away. We lived in a back house and he lived upstairs and it was a family home. The family lived in the front and he had passed away in his sleep. And they were Catholic and they spoke Spanish. And for, I think it was 12 days, 14 days, I don't know. Every single day, family, friends, church people would come over. They would gather together outside. The group got smaller and smaller, so they ended up being in the living room. But it was so many people, they were outside. And they would just be praying and praying and praying in Spanish, just praying and just coming over and bringing food and praying and praying and praying. So I was like, that's amazing. Like, what is that? So I told my husband, like, us as believers, we don't do that. Like, we give a meal for maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, if you have enough people to go drop off a meal. But like, people don't come over for 14 days and pray with you. He's like, yeah, well, they're praying for him to get into heaven. I'm like, excuse me? Excuse me? So now we have purgatory. I always heard about it somewhat, but I didn't really pay attention to it because, like I said, I wasn't Catholic anymore after 11. So it wasn't a thing. And then that was it. So, yeah, purgatory. So they believe that when you die, you go into nothing, I don't know, a black hole and just fly around. And if you get enough people to pray for you, they're praying for you to go to heaven and then you go to heaven. Excuse me? Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So, yeah. I know that my parents got married in a Catholic church, and there's a picture, a beautiful picture of my mom in a wedding dress with her train on her knees and my dad at the altar. And it was just the most beautiful picture to me because I didn't have a wedding. I didn't wear a dress. I didn't get that. And to see the beautiful wedding dress that I always wanted, that's why I did catechism. I do think that Catholic church are very beautiful, like the stained glass windows. Oh, so pretty. I do get the sense that it does feel more like a church. I don't know if it's because I grew up in it, but like a lot of Christian churches, they don't really have windows. And if they have windows, they don't have stained glass windows. They put like curtains up or blinds up and they make everything dark when you do worship. So I get it that when you go inside of a Catholic church, you feel, I don't know, that religious feeling kind of thing. And it's so pretty. And to me, it's kind of peaceful. Like even when you go to, unfortunately, when someone's really sick and you're in the hospital, and you go into their prayer room. Well, not so much out here in Arizona, but in California, their prayer room is like a miniature Catholic church. They have like maybe 6 benches, 6 rows, 2 rows of 6 benches, and it's all the wood and they have the stained glass and it's just so cute and so beautiful. Or like if you have somebody in hospice and they have like a prayer room and it's so pretty. And just like people, things could be pretty on the outside, but not on the inside. Okay? Okay. That's all I'm gonna say. So unfortunately, I didn't learn anything as a Catholic. And so the next few episodes, I'm going to interview my husband. And I'm also going to talk about a few people that I know. One who has left the Christian faith to be a Catholic, and then another one who swears that she saw the Virgin Mary. These are two believers. These are two people who say and said that they gave their life to Christ and claim to be Christians. I'll leave you with that and we'll talk about that later. Thank you so much for joining me today and rambling about growing up Catholic. Did you grow up Catholic too? Like, what were your experience? Am I a total dork? I don't answer that. I know I am. But yeah, I pray that you have a blessed day. And I will see you next time.